Hello, I'm Mr. Polk and welcome to my kitchen. Today what I'd like to do is show you how to make a pizza dough that doesn't use the yeast. Okay, so I know traditionally we think of pizza dough as a yeast risen dough and that's the focus of the unit. But I get that at home right now you might not have yeast, but you want to make pizza. Sometimes you want to, you just decide in the spur of the moment, oh, I want to make pizza, but I don't have time for it to rise for an hour and do all that. So you want just a quick recipe. And also, right now we're trying to get groceries and things like that. It might be tough to find the yeast that you need. So I want to show you a recipe that doesn't use yeast. It doesn't have quite the same flavor, but it does make for a really nice pizza. And there's a couple tricks I'm going to show you that you can get a nice flaky dough out of this that gives you those little air pockets and things that you're used to having in pizza. So we start with the flour. Now this time it's 3 cups of flour, and we're going to use what's called a Tipo 00 flour. This is it's a European flour. It's a high gluten flour. When we learned about the flours in class, we learned about their gluten potential, their protein potential. In Europe, they classify their flours by how fine they are. So they'll use numbers. So 00 means it's super fine. It's 2 zeros. So it's super fine. So this is a real fine flour. And then what we're going to do is, just like in the quick breads, all right, we're going to mix in baking powder, about 2 teaspoons of baking powder and a ½ teaspoon of the salt. And we're going to mix that together first, just like we do in all our recipes. So this has the real fine flour, the Tipo, and it has now the baking powder. That's going to be our leavening. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use water. Now, it's about 1.25 cups. It might take a little less. It all depends. But here's the trick. Rather than just using regular tap water, I like to use a carbonated water. All right, I like to use a carbonated mineral water or a seltzer water or something like that, because that carbonation is also going to help give it rise in the oven. So I'm going to start by pouring about half of it in, and you can see it fizzes up a little bit, all right, because of the carbonation. And then we're going to go ahead and put in our olive oil. And at this point, it's really not going to do a whole lot. It's just going to kind of mix around. And then what we're going to do is keep adding water to get it to a soft dough. And that's the thing, because it's the carbonated water. And again, if you drink seltzer water, I just wouldn't use a flavored, all right, but you use the unflavored. And this is just an unflavored mineral water. And you can see that it's starting to come together like a dough. And it does resemble a little bit of the pizza dough, because I want you to see it has those strings to it. Okay, so it's not like it's making a pie dough. Okay, it's not going to look like that. It's not going to taste like that. It's going to have, this probably looks more like a biscuity kind of dough. And once you get it looking pretty good, you want it to be soft. And at this point, I'm just going to switch to my hands and just sort of go through it and make sure it's coming together the way I want it, because I may need more water, I may not. You want the dough to be soft, and you want it to have, just like regular dough, have some kind of a tack where it's kind of sticky but not. This looks good to me. I'm at that point where it is sticking to my hands a little bit, but it's coming together nicely. I don't want to add any more of the water, and I definitely don't want it to be a dry dough. So the next step is, on a lightly floured board, just start to knead it a little bit. You don't want to knead this dough like you would knead a yeast dough, because it doesn't need that structure, because it's not going to have the power of the yeast to rise it up. It's only going to have the baking powder. So if I overwork this gluten, all right, I already used a strong gluten to begin with. If I overwork it, I'm definitely going to have a pizza that's not going to have the bubbles and the rise like I would like. So I just take it like this, and I fold it in half, hit it with my hands, turn it 90 degrees, and then hit it with the heel of my hand, and I just keep turning. If it feels like it's sticking to the dough, or the dough sticking to the board, add a little more flour, and just keep going. And at this point, it's enough. I mean, look how nice and soft it is. That's what we want. And then we bring it together, like this, and then on the floured board, you just sort of, it's hard to pick up at first, but you just use the heel of your hand, and you guide it with your other hand, and it brings it together into a ball. Now, this dough right here, this would be enough for 4 10-inch pizzas. So what I'm going to do right away is I'm just going to cut it right away into quarters, okay, so that I can get a 10-inch pizza out of each. And then I'm going to turn each ball of dough into a ball. So I'm just going to take it and push it through my hands like that and pinch it together, and then just kind of just give it a little run like this on the board so it's into a ball. And that's going to be enough for a pizza. You can see that it doesn't have the yeast, but it's going to have a nice flavor, and it also has a nice texture. Like, you can tell that these are nice soft pieces of dough. They're not, it's not like we're making this real tough dough. Okay, a lot of times some of the recipes without yeast, the dough gets a little on the tough side. But here you can see it's nice and soft, and it's going to roll out. And then the last thing we do is we're just going to put it on a plate so that you can store them, and make sure you wrap them in saran wrap, because they will develop a bit of a skin. So what I do is I'm going to take my plate, I'll just give it a little spray, and then put the dough on it, and then give it another spray. And then we don't want it to dry out, so we're going to take our saran wrap, there we go, and we're just going to cover it, because you don't want it to dry out. It gets like a crust almost, and then you have to deal with that when you roll it. And then this is ready to go. And you'll, in the next video, I'll be able to show you how you process this dough and the yeast dough. But I wanted to do this for you. This is one we normally didn't do in class, but I wanted to do something that you would be able to do at home if you either didn't have yeast or couldn't get yeast. So thanks for cooking with me today, and I hope to cook with you real soon right here in Mr. Polk's kitchen.